Well, I would have liked to have displayed a Funko Pop of the Black Phone, and I could have gotten it today, but instead, I got these 4 Funko Pops. Except, one of them was for free, though, if I had gotten 2 at GameStop. But anyways, with that being said, hello everyone, welcome back to another double movie review on the channel. I could have had this as a separate video, and I did thought of doing a movie vlog, but I figured that, you know what, let's just do a movie review. And technically, this will be half a re-review, and half a review for the Black Phone 2, because technically, I have reviewed the first movie 3 years ago in a double movie review, which was for Elvis and the Black Phone, which kind of random of me to do, just to review both of those movies. Which I guess is not random, because I did it for I Know What You Did Last Summer and Smurfs. But yeah, the Black Phone 2 just hit theaters today, and now's the perfect time to discuss my thoughts with the first movie. Just a quick recap, and discuss my thoughts with the new one, since I did get the chance to see it last night. So I remember when the Black Phone came out in theaters 3 years ago, as I heard nothing but crazy praise for it, calling it one of the best horror movies of all time, or one of the best horror movies to come out in 2022. I also remember it had a 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, but I did get to go see this in theaters, and I had only saw it once until recently when I rewatched it in preparation for the sequel. And I remember getting jump scared in a few scenes here and there, but I also remember having a good time watching it. I figured I was going to call this overrated, and while I could still say that, it's still a great movie. But what makes this terrifying is how this is a real-life issue in our day and age. Specifically when kids get kidnapped, and that scares me as I worry about my younger siblings being kidnapped, or if I were to get kidnapped. So despite this being a horror movie with its jump scares or supernatural thrills, the real horror with this movie is the part where this kind of thing happens in real life, where kids get kidnapped by killers. And that's probably what's holding this movie back for me. I still enjoyed it, it's just that type of stuff scares me. But back to topic with the movie. While it is a hard watch due to its heavy subject, both Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw, if I pronounced her name correctly, hopefully I did, both carry this movie, as they both play siblings, and you get to care for them once you get to know them in like the first couple of minutes, because Finney doesn't get kidnapped till like later in the movie. It isn't right away. But yeah, once Finney does get kidnapped, you do root for these two to get reunited, as the sister has to figure out where her brother is at, since she has supernatural abilities, specifically with dreams, to where she's being given hints or clues to where her older brother's being held at. Cause this is kind of a supernatural horror movie than just a grounded horror movie. As for Ethan Hawke, he's great in the movie as he plays the grabber. Now, I disapprove kids dying on screen, which you don't see that here, thankfully, but with its heavy subject, it gets an 8 out of 10, but I could say I'm between an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10 with this movie. Unless I give that 8.5 out of 10 to the sequel, as I hear it's better than the first movie. Hell, that might get a 9 out of 10 from me, but we shall see once I see the movie in the next 16 days from now. Which, by the way, I had rewatched The Black Phone about, like, 17 days ago, which was on the last day of September. But I'm very intrigued with the sequel, as they're now turning this series into a Nightmare on Elm Street, if you know what I mean, especially knowing the grabber's fate at the end of this movie. But yeah, I can't think of any major negatives I have for this movie, other than some pros I do have, which would be Ethan Hawke is terrifying as the grabber, the siblings carry this movie, the scares will get you, and this movie has a very satisfying ending. So overall, solid movie, and I'm glad I actually got to see this in theaters back in 2022. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to my thoughts on the Black Phone 2 that just hit theaters today. I'm gonna try my best not to bring up major spoilers, but before I get to my thoughts on the movie, yeah, I've been highly anticipating to see this. I don't know how I reacted when I heard that we'd be getting a sequel, but when I heard that they were gonna take a page out of Nightmare on Elm Street, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. I don't know if that's exactly how I reacted, but probably was something like that. Also, slightly off topic, it's kind of crazy to know that Mason Thames is kind of my age. Actually, I'm about a year older than him, because he's my brother's age. But what blew my mind recently, because I was aware about his age, what I was not aware was that The Black Phone was Mason Thames' acting debut. And now he's been in 6 movies, well, 7 if you count How to Train Your Dragon 2, that's gonna be coming out in 2027, except I've not seen all of his movies. I've only seen 4 of them, which would be Incoming, The Black Phone, now The Black Phone 2, and How to Train Your Dragon. The other 2 movies I have yet to see are Monster Summer, that he's in with Mel Gibson, that came out last October, I believe, and his upcoming movie that comes out next week on my brother's birthday, Regretting You, starring him and McKenna Grace, who both play a couple in this movie. I've not seen a trailer, but I've been wanting to cover a trailer reaction for it in a double trailer reaction episode. So I guess stay tuned for that, which I think I know what trailers I would like to react to probably right after this video, depending. We shall see. But yeah, I really enjoyed Mason Thames as an actor, especially in How to Train Your Dragon, and I look forward to see him again for How to Train Your Dragon 2 that comes out in 2027. But back to topic with the Black Phone 2. So I've been hearing great praise with this movie as well, calling it a better sequel to the first movie, and that's one of the best horror movies of this year. But I've also heard some mixed reception that they didn't like the approach where they went with this one, where basically the grabber becomes Freddy Krueger, where some people prefer the first movie than the second one. Overall, they're kind of mixed on this. Not to say this is bad. Most people have enjoyed this movie. As for me, I just found the first movie to be solid, and I was hoping to like the second one a lot more, and yeah, the Black Phone 2 did not disappoint. And yeah, I would say this is a superior sequel to its predecessor. What had me looking forward to the most going into this movie was the inspiration they'd be taking from Nightmare on Elm Street, where the grabber's basically becoming Freddy Krueger, except they don't exactly copy Nightmare on Elm Street. Let me explain. I'm gonna say this right off the bat, I have never seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie until recently, because I've now seen one. I could count Freddy vs. Jason, but that's like a crossover movie, but the one movie I have just seen recently this month was the reboot or remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. That was technically the last movie to come out, so you might get a double review of me reviewing the last Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Don't know when though, but still, having to know a little bit how Freddy Krueger works, because I've not seen all the movies. Same could go for Friday the 13th. I've only seen like 2 of Friday the 13th, the original and the last one. But yeah, having to know a little bit of Freddy Krueger, specifically with the rules with him and how they did it with the grabber in here, they are both different, because how they do it, yes, they take inspiration, but they do it in their own way. Also, not only does this movie pay homage to A Nightmare on Elm Street, but also pays homage to Friday the 13th, because where we're at this time around for the sequel, we're at like a campsite. And most of the Friday the 13th movies take place at a campsite. But yeah, I enjoyed the first movie, but I really loved the Black Phone 2. I may prefer it over the first Black Phone, and after watching this, I might want more Black Phone movies, but if not, I definitely would like to have one more to cap off a trilogy. Now let's get on to the pros that I liked about the Black Phone 2. And I actually watched an interview from Soups on the Soups Show podcast, if I got the name correctly, where he got to chat with Mason Thames about the movie.
You know, a lot has happened, and Finney is seeing how he deals with that trauma or not. You know, he doesn't want to think about it. He tries to forget it ever happened, and he bottles it up, and, you know, because of it, every night he closes his eyes and he sees what happens, so he tries to drown it out by weed or whatever helps, and it truly just, he's just an angry person. And I think whenever he gets into an altercation that he's not fighting that person, he sees the grabber, and he's just taking out what he did to him, and yeah.
So yeah, I really like the arc that Mason Thames' character went through, where he starts to smoke pot to cope with this trauma that he went through in the last movie. But one thing I've been hearing a lot the most with early reviews was Madeleine McRaw's performance in this movie. And having to see her performance, holy crap! Give her all the flowers, man! Cause she absolutely killed it in this movie! And here's something I immediately noticed while watching this movie. So the first film, it's all about Finney going up against the grabber. But in this one, the tables have turned, because it's now about the sister going up against the grabber. Not to say that Finney is sidelined. If anything, both of these movies are very much about the siblings. Because in the first one, as Finney was kidnapped, Gwen had to figure out where her brother was being held at, and she would get visions that would give her clues or hints whenever she'd be having dreams. Because she somehow has these supernatural abilities that came from her mom, which we do get to know a little bit about her in the sequel. But coming into the second movie, the roles are reversed, because now with Gwen dealing with the grabber in her dreams, Finney now has to protect her from the grabber trying to harm her in the real world. But yeah, I really did not mind that she became the main character for this movie, but it doesn't matter because both of these movies are very much about the siblings anyways. Chapter 1 was about Finney, while Chapter 2 was about Gwen. I also like the little romance that Gwen had with Robin's brother, who we do get to introduce at the beginning of this movie. Also, this movie was surprisingly hilarious at times, and there's a specific scene that probably has to be one of my favorites, where both the love interests for Gwen are chatting in bed together, and Finney is just in the background kind of eavesdropping, but he has no choice because he's in the same room with them. But what's also funny was how he was trying to rizz her up by saying that talking to God is hot. I bursted out laughing. But yeah, that's definitely one of my positives for the movie, and that it was surprisingly funny at times. But as for the camera work, where we get like a different filming style for the dream sequences, I was a little hesitant going into it, but by the very end of the movie, it kind of grew on me, so Yeah, I did not mind the Super 8 filming style. I don't know what filming style the director had used, but the director, Scott Derrickson, used a different camera to film the dream sequences that look old or something. I don't know what word to describe it, but you probably know what I'm talking about. As for Ethan Hawke as the grabber, no, yeah, bro was menacing in this movie. One last positive I will bring up is how this movie had me turn around on a certain character in this movie, and that would be the dad. I absolutely hated him in the last movie, especially with how he treated his daughter by hitting her with a belt, which is a very hard scene to watch because of how realistic it felt. But they got me to like him in this one as he's sobering up, trying to be a better dad for his kids, and we have a great scene involving him and his kids having a moment together at camp. Now, if I had to mention any cons I do have for the Black Phone 2, there's two that come to mind, but I mainly have one major gripe with this movie. The second one is probably just me, which would be, I didn't find this to be scary. Now, it's still scary. You may get jump scared here and there. There was probably one scene that got me, but there were not many jump scares for me compared to the last movie, because I remember having like a few jump scares watching the first movie in theaters. But in this one, only one got me, and I was just like, not too scared, but that don't mean that the movie's not scary. No, it definitely is scary. And we do get to see a specific kill count involving the grabber's first victims. That is graphic, maybe. But speaking about kills, that is one of my major gripes with this movie, and it sadly lacks kills. Now, I look forward to watching Dead Meat's kill count for the Black Phone 2, but I feel like I could already predict how that kill count is gonna go. Now, I don't want to give away the exact number, but yeah, this movie is lacking some kills. So that was a bit of a bummer for me, because I would have liked to have seen the grabber drop some bodies, but sadly, he doesn't. Instead, he's trying to kill Gwen to get back at Finney, because Finney killed him in the last movie, and he wants revenge. That's pretty much it. Even though we didn't get that many kills in the movie, I still enjoyed it, especially when we go deep into the lore with the sequel, and get a backstory with the family as we learn about Finn and Gwen's mother in this film. So if I had to give it a rating, it's a 9 out of 10, which I called it. I figured I was going to maybe give it an 8.5 out of 10, but there was a good chance I could have given it a 9 out of 10. And yeah, I gave it a 9 out of 10 because, yeah, I enjoyed this movie, and I'm down for another movie. Hell, I'll take as many Black Phone movies. But with that being said, those are just my thoughts on re-reviewing the first movie, but overall, my quick thoughts on the Black Phone 2 that is now playing in theaters. You can stream the Black Phone on Peacock, while you can check out the Black Phone 2 in theaters. But definitely let me know your thoughts, comments below on both films, and which one do you think is your favorite. And what would you like to see if they do end up making a third movie? And apologies for not uploading much. I know I wanted to post like 31 different videos reviewing different spooky movies, both PG and PG-13 and R-rated related. PG like Monster House, or PG-13 like some PG-13 movies I've seen, or R-rated, which would be the Halloween films, for example. I'm definitely going to be reviewing the Terrifier movies soon, along with the Smile movies, and Goosebumps, since I did rewatch the first two movies recently this week. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking out the Black Phone 2 now that it's playing in theaters, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. As always, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.